You give more than anyone asks for, more than anyone needs, more than you even have to give. Because somewhere deep in the part of you that never healed, you learned that love isn't something you receive just for existing. It's something you earn by being useful, by being indispensable, by making yourself so necessary that people can't leave even if they want to. And that's not love. That's insurance. That's a hostage negotiation where you're both the hostage and the negotiator. And you're so tired of caring this much, so exhausted from the constant monitoring and adjusting and performing and proving, but you can't stop because stopping feels like disappearing. And if you disappear, if you stop being the one who remembers and plans and fixes and carries everyone else's emotional weight, then what are you? Who are you? And will anyone notice you're gone? Or will they just move on like you were never essential at all? You thought being needed was the same as being loved. You thought if you could just be helpful enough, present enough, sacrificial enough, they would see your value and choose to keep you. But what you're really doing is training people to take from you without giving back. Teaching them that your love doesn't require reciprocity. That you'll stay and care and give regardless of whether they meet you halfway. And now you're trapped in a pattern where you can't receive because you never taught anyone how to give to you. Can't rest because rest means someone might realize they don't actually need. You can't stop performing because the performance is the only thing keeping you visible and you're dying inside this role you created, suffocating under the weight of being everyone's person while having no one who is yours. You panic when someone doesn't text back immediately, not because you're clingy but because silence feels like erasure. Like the moment they stop needing something from you is the moment you stop existing in their world. You over-explain, over-apologize, over-function in every relationship because you're terrified that if you're not constantly proving your worth, someone will realize you don't have any. You can't say no without feeling guilty, can't set boundaries without feeling selfish, can't ask for anything without feeling like a burden. Because you learned early that your needs were too much, that wanting attention was demanding, that requiring care was weakness. So you buried those needs so deep you forgot they existed and replaced them with this desperate drive to meet everyone else's needs, first hoping that if you gave enough, someone would eventually think to give back. You keep score but pretend you don't. You track every effort, every sacrifice, every time you showed up when no one showed up for you. And the resentment builds like water behind a dam, invisible until it isn't. Until it bursts out in ways you can't control in passive-aggressive comments, or sudden withdrawals or explosive fights, where all the unexpressed hurt comes pouring out, and everyone looks at you like you're crazy, like you're overreacting, because they never saw the thousand small ways they took and took and took, while you smiled and said it was fine. Here's what actually happened. You learned that love was conditional before you even understood what love was. You figured out that attention was scarce and had to be earned through performance. That affection came with strings. That being cared for required you to first prove you were worth the effort. And so you became an expert in earning, in performing, in making yourself small enough to fit into whatever shape people needed you to be. Because being needed felt safer than being wanted, because need is tangible, measurable, controllable, but want is vulnerable. Want can change, want can disappear without warning, and you couldn't risk that. Couldn't risk being wanted, and then suddenly not. So you made yourself needed instead, built your entire identity around being useful. Being helpful, being the one people couldn't function without. And now you're stuck because the moment you stop caring this much, the moment you stop giving this much, you're convinced everyone will leave, everyone will forget, everyone will realize you were only valuable as long as you were exhausting yourself for them. You weren't born this way. You were trained this way. Trained by parents who loved you when you behaved, by caregivers who only saw you when you excelled, by early relationships that taught you love was something you had to work for, audition for, constantly re-earn. And that training is still running, still telling you that rest is rejection, that boundaries are abandonment, that asking for care means you failed at being the caretaker, and you can't break the pattern because the pattern is the only way you know how to feel safe. The brutal truth is this: you don't care too much because you're loving. You care too much because you're terrified, because every act of service is a bid for connection. Every sacrifice is a plea to be remembered. Every moment of overfunctioning is you screaming, "Please do not leave me," in a language you hope someone will finally understand. But they don't understand. They just take. They just accept your care as if it's free, when really it's costing you everything: your energy, your peace, your sense of self, your ability to exist without being in service to someone else's needs. You're not generous, you're desperate. And there's a difference. Generosity flows from overflow, from a place of fullness, but your giving flows from deficit, from a place of fear, from the belief that if you stop pouring yourself out, you'll be discarded like you were never important in the first place. And that belief isn't love. It's trauma. It's the wound that never closed. And every time you care too much, you're not healing it. You're reopening it. You're proving to yourself over and over again that love requires exhaustion, that connection requires self-abandonment, that being remembered requires you to sacrifice being seen. So here's what you do when you catch yourself caring too much, when you feel that familiar panic rising, because someone didn't respond or didn't appreciate or didn't notice everything you did. You stop. You pause. You ask yourself if you're giving because you want to, or because you're afraid. What will happen if you don't? And if the answer is fear, if the motivation is terror of being forgotten, then you don't give, you don't care, you don't perform. You sit with the discomfort of not earning your place, of not proving your worth, of existing without being useful. And it will feel like dying. It will feel like abandonment. It will feel like you're watching yourself disappear, but you're not disappearing. You're just finally stopping the performance, finally testing whether people love you or just love what you do for them. And that test is terrifying but necessary, because you can't build real connection on a foundation of fear-driven service. You can't create actual intimacy when you're too busy managing everyone's emotions to express your own. You can't be loved for who you are if you never stop performing long enough to let anyone see who that is. Start small. Start with one boundary, one no, one moment where you don't explain or justify or apologize for having limits, and watch what happens. Watch who stays, watch who actually shows up for you when you're not showing up for them, and the people who leave, the people who only valued you for your utility. You didn't lose them. You freed yourself from relationships that were never real, that were never mutual, that were always going to leave you empty, no matter how much you gave. You care too much because you're afraid of being forgotten. But here's what you haven't realized yet. The version of you that everyone knows, the over-functioning, over-giving, self-sacrificing version, isn't the real you. It's the mask you wear to feel safe. And people aren't remembering you. They're remembering the service. They're remembering the convenience. They're remembering what you do for them, not who you are beneath all that doing. And if you want to be actually seen, actually remembered, actually loved, you have to stop hiding behind care. Stop using service as a shield. Stop performing connection and start risking real vulnerability, which means showing up as you are, messy and needy and imperfect and limited. Showing up without the offering, without the grand gesture, without the proof of your worth. Just showing up as a person who wants to be wanted, not needed, as someone who is asking to be chosen, not earned, as a human who has needs too, who gets tired too, who wants to be cared for without having to orchestrate their own care. The fear of being forgotten is real. The fear is valid. But feeding that fear by caring more, giving more, doing more, that doesn't make you more memorable. It makes you more exhausted. It makes you more invisible. Because the more you give, the less of you there is to actually see. And one day you'll wake up and realize you became so good at being everything for everyone that you completely forgot how to be anything for yourself. And by then the people you were afraid of losing won't even know who you really are. They'll just know the version of you that never stopped working, never stopped trying, never stopped caring until there was nothing left. And that's not the ending you deserve. That's not the love you were meant to find. You were meant to be chosen while resting, loved while being imperfect, remembered while being still. And the only way to find that is to stop running, stop performing, stop caring more than you're cared for, and start trusting that the people who are supposed to stay will stay without you having to exhaust yourself to keep them, and the ones who leave, the ones who only stayed because of what you did, those aren't losses. Those are liberations. Those are the clearing of space for relationships that don't require you to disappear in order to feel safe. And you deserve that space. You deserve that safety. You deserve to be remembered not for what you give but for who you are, and becoming that person, letting yourself be that person. It starts with one terrifying sacred moment of caring less, giving less, doing less, and discovering that you're still here, still valuable, still worth loving, even when you're not earning it, even when you're not trying, even when you're just existing, just being, just finally resting. The fear of being forgotten is real. The fear is valid. But feeding that fear by caring more, giving more, doing more, that doesn't make you more memorable. It makes you more exhausted. It makes you more invisible. Because the more you give, the less of you there is to actually see. And one day you'll wake up and realize you became so good at being everything for everyone that you completely forgot how to be anything for yourself. And by then the people you were afraid of losing won't even know who you really are. They'll just know the version of you that never stopped working, never stopped trying, never stopped caring until there was nothing left. And that's not the ending you deserve. That's not the love you were meant to find. You were meant to be chosen while resting, loved while being imperfect, remembered while being still. And the only way to find that is to stop running. Stop performing, stop caring more than you're cared for, and start trusting that the people who are supposed to stay will stay without you having to exhaust yourself to keep them, and the ones who leave, the ones who only stayed because of what you did. Those aren't losses. Those are liberations. Those are the clearing of space for relationships that don't require you to disappear in order to feel safe. And you deserve that space. You deserve that safety. You deserve to be remembered not for what you give but for who you are, and becoming that person, letting yourself be that person. It starts with one terrifying sacred moment of caring less, giving less, doing less, and discovering that you're still here, still valuable, still worth loving, even when you're not earning it, even when you're not trying, even when you're just existing, just being, just finally resting.